well, among the details in the thousands of WikiLeaks data was this note about a gift to Bill Clinton. A Qatar representative would like to see WJC, that's William Jefferson Clinton, for 5 minutes in New York City to present $1 million check that Qatar promised for WJC's birthday in 2011. Now, at the time that this was written in 2012, Mrs. Clinton was still Secretary of State, and Qatar was actually funding terrorists, including the early phase of ISIS. Isn't there something very wrong with this picture? Let's ask Captain Chuck Nash. He's a Fox News military analyst. Captain, this has more red flags in it than anything I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's so many conflicts of interest in this whole thing with the foundation, but that's on the political side. There are people looking at it, and so far it appears that the Clintons are being held to a different standard on this. But as far as funding terrorism goes, the other thing that's interesting about Qatar is that there was an arms dealer who was just let off the hook. The Department of Justice decided not to prosecute him because evidently there were some missiles, surface-to-air Stinger missiles, that were sent through Qatar with the State Department that had Hillary's hands, fingerprints all over that deal. So there's a lot going on in there. There's a lot of intrigue, and $1 million for a 5-minute hello, how are you? That's better than $700,000 for a 20-minute speech.
At some point they said we weren't going to, while she was Secretary of State, we weren't going to take money from a foreign government. So there's that. Then there's also, as you say, I mean, there's no question, by the way, we can put up a quote from one of the leading Middle East experts in America saying Qatar still tolerates, this is in 2014, Qatar still tolerates private fundraising for al-Qaeda, ISIS, and other radical organizations. So there's no question. This is a country that has individuals and people in government spending money on terrorism, and there was no ability of Hillary Clinton to stop it from doing that while her husband was getting $1 million from that. It's so wrong.
Well, there was a Nelsonian blind eye turned to that whole problem. And here again, once you get into these conflicts of interest where you have as you point out, David, there was, it was brought up in the Senate confirmation hearings when she was being confirmed to be Secretary of State, and there was a deal with the White House that there would be an arm's length distance, but what she did was she said, oh, okay, I won't do it, but that doesn't preclude my staff from doing it. Yeah. So you have her loyal staffers, and it's so intertwined with the foundation that it is a clear conflict of interest to everybody except the DOJ.
Finally, there's one thing that's really problematic about this. This is just when ISIS was beginning to get going, 2011, 2012. The same person who wrote that other piece talking about Qatar being a source of terrorism says, as the Qatar government security guarantor, Washington, more than any other party, holds the key to inspiring a different kind of approach. That was written in 2014. She had 2 years to kind of turn Qatar around, and there was no, if there was an attempt, it failed miserably to get them to stop funding terrorism.
It failed miserably because there were other things going on, and like I say, a blind eye was turned to that. They were donating big time to the foundation. All of these conflict of interest are just bizarre, except to the Department of Justice. They don't seem to find a problem with it.
Captain Chuck Nash, thank you, sir. Good to see you.